Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about a brief introduction regarding carbohydrates and its classification, as well as an in detail classification of monosaccharides. So as you can see, here is the classification of carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates are mainly classified into two types, sugars and non-sugars. So these sugars again further can be classified into monosaccharides and oligosaccharides, and the non-sugars comes under polysaccharides, and these polysaccharides are classified into homopolysaccharides and heteropolysaccharides. So when you see the classification of oligosaccharide, they can be classified into di-oligosaccharides, tri-oligosaccharides, tetra and penta oligosaccharides, and the monosaccharides are mainly classified into two types, aldoses and ketoses. Aldoses in the sense aldotrioses, tetroses, pentoses and hexoses, and ketotrioses, ketotetroses, ketopentoses, hexoses and heptoses. So this is the brief outline classification of the carbohydrates. Now we are going to discuss an in detail explanation for these monosaccharides, aldoses and ketoses. Before knowing what are monosaccharides, first of all we need to discuss what are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates So carbohydrates are the most abundant biomolecules on the earth. It's the most abundant biomolecule on the earth. So these carbohydrates are used as storage molecules. So these are storage molecules. So this stored form of carbohydrate is starch in case of plants, and it is glycogen in case of animals. So the carbohydrate has two kinds of stored form. One is starch and another one is glycogen. So the starch is the stored form of carbohydrates in case of plants, and glycogen is the stored form of carbohydrate in case of animals. So this carbohydrate act as a biofuel for the living systems, and these carbohydrates are actually polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketones with an empirical formula CH2ON. So when you observe the structure of a carbohydrate, say for example a glucose structure, you can observe the presence of polyhydroxy groups. So if I have to show you, this 1, 2, 3, this is CHO aldehyde group, 3, 4, 5, and this is the 6th one. OH, CHO, H, H, OH, H, OH. So this is the basic structure of a carbohydrate. If we take glucose, so this is the aldehyde group, and so if you can see, these are the polyhydroxyl group on the carbohydrate basic structure. And according to the formula, we have the 6 carbons here, C6H12 and O6. So 6 carbon on either side. There will be an arrangement of hydroxyl and hydrogen groups. So these carbohydrates are referred to as polyhydroxy or ketones with empirical formula CH2ON. So if you go to the classification, so some of the carbohydrates are sweet in taste. So the carbohydrates which gives a sweet taste are referred to as sugars. So these sugars are classified into two types: monosaccharides and oligosaccharides. So in this lecture we are going to discuss in detail explanation for monosaccharides. So what are monosaccharides? So these monosaccharides are defined as a polyhydroxyaldehydes or ketones which cannot be further hydrolyzed to simple sugars. Which means, so when you break down these monosaccharide sugars with hydrolysis, by hydrolysis they are not going to give another subunits of sugars, because these are the sugars with a single unit. So as it mentioned, mono means single, saccharide means sugar. So this monosaccharide consists of single unit of sugars. That's why they are referred to as simple sugars, and these are sweet in taste. So they contains 3 to 10 carbon atoms in their structure, 2 or more hydroxyl group, and 1 aldehyde group or 1 ketone group are present in their structure. So the general formula is CH2ON for monosaccharides, and these are also known as reducing sugars because they possess a free aldehyde group or a free ketone group in their structure, so which can be easily oxidized while reducing to other substances. So here what are reducing sugars? So reducing sugars are those kind of sugars which consists of aldehyde or ketone group in their structure, which when they oxidized or when they react with, when they undergo chemical reactions, they tend to give other substances. So those kind of sugars are known as reducing sugars. So these monosaccharides are colorless crystals, and these are sweet in taste and soluble in water. They exhibit optical isomerism, so they can form isomers, and they exhibit the mutarotation. So here when you see the classification of a monosaccharide based upon the carbonyl group, these are classified into two types: aldoses and ketoses. So the aldoses are the kind of monosaccharides which consists of aldehyde group in their structure, and the ketoses are those kind of monosaccharides which consists of C double bond O, which is a ketone group in their structure. So based upon these carbonyl groups, they are divided into aldoses and ketoses. So for the better understanding, here is the classification. So if the monosaccharides are trioses, the formula will be C3H6 and O3. So you can remember like this: C3, tri stands for 3, right? So 3 carbons are present. Okay. So when you double the 3, 6 hydrogens will be present, and the oxygen atoms will be as like carbon atoms. So 3 number of oxygen atoms will be present in the structure. So the example is glycerose. And the example for ketose is dihydroxyacetone. Similarly, tetrosis consists of 4 carbon atoms, C4H8 and O4. Examples are erythrose and erythrulose. If it takes the form of a ketose, then it will ends with erythrulose. Pentose again C5H10O5, ribose and ribulose. Hexose. Example will be the glucose, fructose, heptose, glucoheptose and pseudoheptulose. So this is the brief classification of monosaccharides based upon the number of carbon atoms. Let's discuss what are trioses. A triose with an aldehyde group is known as an aldotriose, which means the triose simply consists of an aldehyde group CHO. So CHO stands for an aldehyde group, aldotriose, and if it consists of a keto group, it is known as a ketotriose. The keto group is nothing but C double bond O. Or so tetrose with a keto group is known as again a ketotetrose. With the aldehyde group is known as aldotetrose. So trioses, the common aldose occurring in the organism is known as a glycerose. So among the trioses, when you take the example, one such example is glycerose or glyceraldehyde. You can remember like this, as it consists of aldehyde group in its structure, it can be referred to as glyceraldehyde. And the common ketose occurring in the organism is dihydroxyacetone. So you can observe this glyceraldehyde in glycolysis pathway, glyceraldehyde G3P and DHAP in glycolysis. So that's why they are referred to as most abundant form of aldoses and ketoses in the organisms. So this glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone occur as intermediate products in the metabolism of glucose. So the glucose do have the metabolic pathway known as glycolysis, in which the glucose is broken down into 2 molecules of pyruvic acid. So in that pathway you tend to see this glyceraldehyde and dihydroxyacetone as intermediate products. So they are found to be precursors of glycerol, which is incorporated into the lipids. So these are the precursor form for the glycerol, which is a backbone structure for the lipids. So these are the few applications of dihydroxyacetone and glyceraldehyde. So this is the structure. This is the structure of the glycerose. So it do have the, if you observe the structure carefully, it do have the aldehyde group in its structure. So it is known as glycerose or glyceraldehyde. You can name it as glyceraldehyde as well. So when you observe the dihydroxyacetone structure, it do have the ketone group. It consists of a simple C double bond O and CH2OH at the top and bottom of the structure. And you can see as the glycerose and dihydroxyacetone are trioses. They consist of only 3 carbon atoms, 1, 2 and 3 in their structure. That's why they are referred to as trioses. So that consists of an aldehyde group, glyceraldehyde, ketone group, dihydroxyacetone. So here the important point which you need to observe here is about the asymmetric carbons. So what is asymmetric carbon here? The carbon atom around which four different atoms or groups of atoms are attached are known as asymmetric carbon atoms.